Statistics presented in court showed that between 2004 and 2012, there were 4.43 million stops. 52% were black suspects, 31% were Hispanic.
Stop and frisk would be madness. Just look at Chicago. The violence there could be stopped by flooding the zone with police on literally every corner of dangerous neighborhoods.
If this was happening in predominantly white neighborhoods, wealthy neighborhoods, do you think people would stand for it?
Well, you show me a wealthy white neighborhood where you have the level of crime. Show me, and then I think we should go there.
What kind of crime are you talking about? I can show you a lot of
muggings, murders. And who's doing
believe
the
me,
crime in the wealthy white neighborhoods?
I grew up in a very wealthy white neighborhood, and I can tell you the number of parents who were popping pills and doing all sorts of illegal stuff, but it wasn't, it wasn't the stuff that was being prosecuted.
And the reality is, when you go to the ghettos and the public housing and cities and urban environments like Washington, you go to predominantly black neighborhoods, that is where the violence is occurring. And it's occurring, so black lives and Hispanic lives are being saved by stop and frisk.
When you're walking the block with your hood up and you keep looking back at us like that, bro, you think you might have something.
It is one of the few known recordings of something that happens nearly 2,000 times a day in New York, but whether
unconstitutional, unreasonable search and seizure. Just on the face, it's not really a search, it's a quick pat down. It's not a seizure, you're not really seizing the person, it's just a very momentary stop.
They say the NYPD stops and frisks way too many innocent men of color for no good reason.
He was holding me, he was going through your pocket, he was going up, down.
You want to go to jail?
For what?
Shut your mouth, kid.
What am I getting arrested for?
Shut your mouth.
What am I getting arrested for?
For being a mutt, you know what?
Also, that's a law, being a mutt?
In that case, incidentally, I think we disproportionately stop whites too much and minorities too little.
The mayor's comments infuriated many. They couldn't believe what he said.
I found Mayor Bloomberg's comments today on his radio show to be outrageous and insulting.
Yeah.
Outrageous. Really unbelievably out of touch and insensitive. This mayor, it's almost like he can't take the fact that things aren't going his way anymore.
Manning, a sophomore at Mathematics, Civics, and Sciences Charter School, just got off the subway with about a dozen teammates in uniform on their way to play a high school basketball game. Exactly why the students were stopped and questioned remains unclear, but Manning says he was put in handcuffs, then says during a pat-down, a female police officer squeezed his genitals so hard it ruptured his testicle.
She patted me down again, and then I felt her reach, and she grabbed my butt. And then she grabbed and squeezed again and pulled down. And that's when I heard something pop.
The school says she was with Manning 10 minutes before the incident. She says this straight-A model student hasn't had a single discipline problem in his 3-year history at the school.
Silently, they walked by the thousands down Fifth Avenue on Sunday. New Yorkers of all ages, creeds, and colors walked in a silent march together to protest what they call inappropriate, unconstitutional treatment by the NYPD.
We've always had racial profiling here in New York City, but now it's come to such a degree that people are really waking up and understanding that it's happening in inordinate numbers. When you have nearly 750,000 people stopped, and 88% of those people stopped are innocent, then what's going on here?
Today, a federal judge called the NYPD's policy of stop, question, and frisk unconstitutional. The judge says the city adopted a policy of indirect racial profiling. Those who are routinely subjected to stops are overwhelmingly people of color.
view of the world, her own utopian view of how the world should be for the way the real life is for the people who are trying to get by, not get killed, not get robbed, not get raped on the streets of New York.
This progress out of political correctness, because that's what it's about. It's about, again, political correctness infecting areas of our culture that make it less safe.
If they suspect someone is up to criminal activity and is armed and dangerous, you bet I want them to go ahead and pat it down. It's not that intrusive.
You know, I had a friend that was leaving the supermarket and he got stopped and frisked. I know friends that giving high fives to each other at bus stops, and the cops stopped them thinking that they exchanged drugs. I mean, I had a friend coming home from football practice and he had his cleats on and stuff like that, and he was walking with a limp. So I guess because he was walking with a limp and he's a big guy, they assumed he got into some type of altercation and they stopped him. I mean, so it's just, the list goes on and on. This is what really made me realize this is not a going to school problem. This is a neighborhood problem. This is you're a young African-American male problem. This is you're from East Flatbush. If it happens to you once, you probably won't get it. If it happens to you under a random circumstance, you won't get it. But you have to understand that there's people that have been stopped over 10 times. There are people that have been stopped over 20 times. And it's just something that it's dehumanizing. No one has to ever want to go through that.
The consequence of a slowdown and stop and frisk could be death.
And what this judge said today, by the way, it was not that stop and frisk is unconstitutional at all. She actually said, I'm not calling for an end to stop and frisk.
I would suggest that people who don't have to experience stop and frisk find it very convenient and comfortable to say that it's no big deal.
We're not talking about throwing out stop and frisk. We need that. But we need to make sure that we do it in a way where we don't wind up losing that. Because if we don't straighten up our act as police, we're going to lose it, and then we're going to really have a problem.
We had a presumption that the New York City Police Department is going out every morning and targeting young black males, all right? They want to roust young black males. And they're looking, and they know who the wise guys are. They know where the drug dens are. They know where, they're not just walking around going, hey, you, come over here, all right? They're trying to suppress violent crime, and they're succeeding. Yet Scheinlin and the left doesn't like it because black males are involved. That's why they don't like it.
I think the police's job is to get to know us, to make us feel like we can go to them, to make us feel like when we see them, we don't have to walk across the street. When we see them, we can say, what's up, without them thinking we mean it sarcastically. When you look around, you should feel safer when you see a cop. You shouldn't feel like you're a target. And I think that's the main goal, is that we should feel like citizens of New York and not criminals.